renamed my talk slightly, Rethinking Web UX with Webauthn, Project Fugu, and ML, because I know you guys are all interested in that. I'm sorry for the quality of this deck. I forgot my computer at home in Seattle, and I had to redo all of my slides last night without any of my video samples. Okay, so who am I and why do I think I have the right to talk about this? So when we first did Dojo Toolkit, we made this distinction between plumbers and carpenters. Plumbers, who are overrepresented on the web, are the people who, enjoy making tools and infrastructure. Carpenters are people who make user-facing apps. I am a carpenter, which means I am not famous online. I'm not working for a large company. I don't work on Chrome, or any of the, I don't work on toolkits. I don't do that. I just make apps for my whole career, 24 years now. And I am currently building an app, which I hoped to demo here, but unfortunately, I'm waiting on the patent. And a lot of this stuff that I learned was from trying to solve my own problems with this app. And the main thing is that we just could not have any downloads. And that pushed me towards doing stuff with the web instead of a native app or a React Native or something like that. So, and what I found is that actually, to quote Chris, the web is good now. Okay, so why now? Why am I bringing this up now? So I was really struck by this tweet by my friend Aaron Boudman, who is not just one of the best developers in JavaScript, but he's like one of the most prescient thinkers. And by the way, if you haven't checked out Replicache, which is his toolkit for syncing up the client and the server, I really recommend it. But he told a story about how when we first started out, XHR, XML, HTTP request, or as the kids say, fetch, it was around for like 5 years before anybody decided to do anything cool with it. And it was really Gmail and then Google Maps that made fetch important because nobody had shown any, particular excitement about it before. And he says, for the past few years, it's been possible to store hundreds of megabytes locally in web apps. Did you know that? Like, do you know how much it's possible to store? In some cases, it can be half of the free space on your disk. That's a lot. And yet, what are we doing with this new capability? I'm not doing anything yet. But he's saying there are a lot of things that the web can do now that we're not maybe aware of, and that can revolutionize our UX. So also, this is a good time in the business cycle for us to talk about this stuff, because UX is super boring now, because especially in consumer, there have been incumbents that have kind of boring UX, and they're like a big tree that is shading out all of the smaller shrubs that might come up. But also, because there is or is not a little bit of a recession, new ventures start up in recessions. I'm sure you guys have all been super busy working, getting that bag. But if you get laid off, you're going to sit around for a while, and then you're going to start thinking, oh, I need to do this project. Also, the tooling's really good now. And there are new ideas that, for instance, Remix, which I'm really excited about, it is going to make some of the performance problems of React less evident, and then we can use some of that performance to do other things. Also, native apps are not continuing to grow at the rate that they did before. The downloads and usage for native apps are flat or down, except for like the top 10 biggest, which unless you work for Facebook or Google or Snapchat or TikTok, that's not you. Okay, so first let's talk about Project Fugu. What is it? Why isn't it better known? And like, how can we learn about it? So it is a Google-led effort. There are other players, but it was first pushed by Google and by the Chrome team to match native UX in the browser. And they've made tremendous progress over the last few years. And again, you know, there's still work to do, but it's super, super exciting. Why don't we know more about it? So Apple is a big reason. They have not followed suit with Safari in a lot of the APIs, and it's a little bit problematic, but we think that it's going to improve because of antitrust. Also, the official documentation for Project Fugu is undelightful at best. You know, it's in tiny font, and it's really dry, and there's no pictures, and you know, and it's missing a lot of things that you would need to really understand what Project Fugu can do for you. So I'm going to recommend these two other sites. One is this Fugu Showcase, which shows all of the different APIs that Project Fugu has implemented. And then you can see apps, demo apps, that use these. I mean, some of them are really big, like Figma. Some of them are just tiny little, basically, showcase apps. But I think for me, it helped me learn what the different APIs did by seeing what the different apps actually do. And you know, some of the names of these are really a little bit opaque. So like, if you see something like file system access, that doesn't necessarily scream at you like, this is how Photoshop online does their thing. But that's actually what's going on. And the other one is, it's this one, Can I Use, which has really the best looking browser compatibility charts. And this is really important because obviously if Safari doesn't have support, you're going to be limiting your market in many cases, not all. Okay, so let's get to some demos. Number one, we're going to look at Webauthn, which Webauthn is also known as FIDO2, and you might have read about it in that context. It's FIDO2 in the browser. So it's a project to completely get rid of passwords and replace them with, you know how they say, like, there's something you know, something you are, and something you have. So it's moving away from something you know, which is password, and it's moving towards something you are, which is like your face or your fingerprint, biometrics, or something that you have, which is a YubiKey. Unfortunately, the video that we shot with the YubiKey didn't compress in time, so I'm just going to show you right now the one with the biometric login. And this is courtesy of my lovely assistant, Ben Wishovich, sorry. And he he implemented this demo. So let me pull up the demo. Okay, here we go. So here he's registering that he wants to use biometrics, and now he's logging in with his fingerprint. It's that simple. So everybody, Webauthn, start implementing it today. Ben will be around this whole conference, and he can give you tips. And he is starting a Webauthn service. So he'd be somebody who's great to talk to. We also shot one with the YubiKey, which just plugs into the USB-C port. But unfortunately, my video did not compress. Okay, next one, the Share API. Now, this sounds really kind of trivial, but being able to use the platform's native sharing actually makes a much better experience, and it's so much easier to implement. So where's my... Oh, I made another video. Okay, so this is a little web app called, it's actually a website. It's a PWA called Scrapbook Pwa. And what it does is, here I'm taking a photograph from my phone. I'm sharing it to this scrapbook. And look, it shows up on this little website. And then from there, I can share it to any other app. So that's pretty amazing and cool for me, because I've never implemented a good sharing system. Okay, and then the next one we're going to look at is going to be WebUSB. This actually has pretty good support from Apple, as well as the other. And I found this thing while I was working on my talk. So this is Charlie, who was a speaker at Cascadia last year. And she built a system to get data from planes flying overhead. So WebUSB is great for taking stuff from the real world and putting it into the browser quickly and easily. Okay, so here's the video. There's the plane. And look, it's writing data right to our browser through the magic of WebUSB. Okay. And then File System Access API. This is Photoshop on the web. And in the interests of time, I think I'm going to have to skip that one. But any of you who have not seen at least a demo of Photoshop on the web, you got to see it, because literally for our entire careers, Photoshop was one of the classic examples of an app that seemed so big and so complex that it was never going to be on the web. And there it is. Okay. So now let's talk about ML. I don't know if you guys are aware, but ML is, I think, in my opinion, it's going to be driving more and more UX. For instance, for my app, which is, the whole point of the app is to help people in my entrepreneurial engineering group connect at our meetups quickly. And so we came up with this idea that we wanted to revive the UX from an old app called Bump. And so we wanted to let people connect by basically making a cheers motion with their phones. And we tried a lot of different approaches, one of which was to train a model to detect this motion. We didn't end up using it in production, but it was a really interesting thing. It was cool. So the first one I want to show you is an image classifier. And along with this, I want to make you aware of this site, Teachable Machine. because it lets you do a lot of try out, a lot of cool, but well understood ML tasks without installing anything, without having to go through all of that. You just tell it what you want to do, and it's in the browser, and it'll do it for you. So let's look at the demo. So this is an app called Banana Meter. So basically, it can tell whether your banana's ripe. And it was trained on 52 videos of ripe bananas. And then 85 images of overly ripe bananas. And then it trained. And now, if you show it a banana, it can say, too early, ripe, too late, or no banana. And I don't know, I find that whole thing quite delightful. And, by the way, this works on your phone. So, that makes it a game changer for me. It's not just some model that, is on some server in the back end, whatever. It's on your phone. Okay, the next one is speech recognition. Okay, let's hope my microphone's working. Up, down, yes, 4. So it has been trained on these words, and you can actually hook it up to something where it'll move a cursor using those directions. And this one is a pretty well understood problem. So if you wanted to do something like this in your web app, super easy. And then finally, this one just came up recently. Helps you count things. Yeah, so it's not perfectly accurate, but it's pretty cool. And in many cases, when you're counting things, you really just want a ballpark figure. And so I was like, man, I'm going to win every one of those jelly bean, for the rest of my life, using the power of ML. Okay. Finally, how about some caveats? Why we can't have nice things? Safari, Lasai. Safari is, I would say the #1 biggest blocker for us to progress in this direction, but we're going to defeat them. we're going to make them give us these APIs for the good of humanity and web dev. Also, I cannot lie, perf can be an issue, particularly with the ML stuff. There are cases where it can make your phone really slow down. So it's something to keep in mind, but remember, perceived performance, there's stuff about how you message it to people, and as long as you're not killing all of their, it's just something to keep in mind. And then finally, PWAs are still sort of misunderstood by the masses. Even I have trouble sometimes remembering how to use the badging thing, to put a badge on your home screen. And I don't know whether, my mom, when she sees a pop-up, do you want to install this on your home screen? I don't know if my mom knows what that means, or whether she's going to do it, or whether she thinks, it's somebody scamming her. but it's definitely an issue. Okay, so that's about it. I really just want to encourage you to understand all of the new things that browsers can do for you to make your life easier, but also cooler. And I want you all to go out there and go forth and build the next gen of awesomization.
Thank you very much.